Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, YouTube exclusive Q&A with myself, JP Dinnell, and Lucas. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
How are you, man?
I'm the same.
The same?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that could be good.
Right now, I'm currently preparing my child for the fact that I'm going to have a smooth beard like him pretty soon.
Oh.
Yeah.
How are those conversations going with
He's fine with it.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, he's cool. Well, like, we'll see when it happens, right? The 5-month-old is the one that I'm more concerned with because he's just now paying attention to the fact that I exist. So we'll see what happens. But the 2-year-old, he likes to do things just like daddy, right? So he brushes his teeth just like daddy.
Yeah.
Do this just like daddy. He wants to have. We've got these towel sets. And the big bath towels and the hand towels are the same, and so he wants to use the hand towel so that he can have the towel that's like just like dad. After
Yes.
So
that's
totally
awesome.
Cool. So I told him I was gonna go get my beard cut so that I can have a smooth beard just like Levi, and he was like, just like Levi. I was like, yeah.
amazing.
So yeah, he's totally into it because dad wants to do something just like him now. So he's really looking forward to it.
What if you were to like trim it today to where it's short, but it's still on? And you give,
He's seen me with a trim beard before.
But I mean like trimmed. Like
Yeah.
the hair's still there, but it's short
Yeah.
for, a day. And then it's like a
I don't know.
progression.
I kind of want the time lapse video of the haircut.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be awesome.
Yep. When I'm thinking content, that's what I'm not thinking about my kid whenever I'm thinking about our content. Like, who cares what he thinks?
He'll be all right.
No, he'll figure it out. Kids are resilient.
Yeah. They
What?
are.
Yeah.
Do you remember that movie? Did you ever watch the movie Jeremiah Johnson?
No, I've never heard of it.
All right. This has been the YouTube.
I know. I know Jeremiah Patrick.
No, Jeremiah Johnson.
Okay.
Anyways, it's. Oh, gosh. All
What?
right.
When?
There's a scene.
When was this movie made?
I mean, back in the day. This is a movie that my parents watched with us when we were kids,
Okay.
and you can tell it had been around for a while. Jeremiah Johnson, the Mountain Man. You've like never heard of that at all.
1972 Western film by Sidney Pollack, starring Robert Redford.
Yeah.
Nope.
Awesome. Anyways, he has this like, he's a mountain man, so he's got massive beard.
Yeah.
He
that makes
goes
sense.
off for like a season to like hunt or whatever, and comes back and he shaved his beard, and she like didn't recognize him, like his wife. And thought it was somebody else. And anyways, I just remember that from like watching as a kid. You're like, wait, what the heck?
Intense.
Yeah.
Yep.
And anyways, so I was just thinking, as you're saying, like shaving your beard and come back and your
Yeah,
kid's
it's
like,
gonna be weird. You've never seen me completely clean shaven.
No.
I look like I'm 14.
Well,
So I did this before the wedding, and I gave Kirsten, like, because she'd never seen me without a beard, and she was like, you're the only guy I've ever dated with a beard. And I was like, yep. Once you, so,
Yeah.
So we're talking, and I was like, look, I can shave it now, and if I do it far enough ahead of the wedding, then I can grow it back for the wedding. So if I shave it and you like it shaven, then we can do that for the wedding and the wedding pictures, and then I'll grow it back afterwards. But if I shave it and you hate it, this gives us enough cushion to where I can grow it back. And she was like, okay. So I shaved it, and I came out, and she was like, you look too close to my age. Can you grow it back? I was like, yep, done.
That's amazing.
So that was it. I shaved one time for one day, and that's probably the only time I've done it since I was like 23.
Interesting.
I had to do it for a gig whenever I was 23.
Well, it's for Mama Lee's.
Yeah.
It's a good
It's
good
supporting
reason.
the cause.
Yeah. And
I'm kind of terrified.
it's hair. It grows back.
Yeah.
Well, at least your beard.
Yeah, the beard hair
The
grows
top,
back.
I don't know. No, come on.
Johnny Slicks has some stuff out there that he says is supposed to do it, so we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see, Mr. Slicks.
Mr. Slicks. I know you got some questions for us coming up. It was funny. I was looking at my Instagram page the other day, and I don't know why I just like started looking at the stats.
I always be looking at your Instagram
Well,
page.
I have lost more followers than I have gained this last month.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I think just because, I don't know. It's unique. I was like looking at like what I mean. Nothing's changed in my postings other than
they're wiping out a lot of bots.
I'm fine with
Instagram.
losing bots, which is great. So well, that's funny you said that. I was like, I wonder if it's just a bunch of fake accounts that are going away, which I'm totally good with. I don't care about the number of my followers, but I thought it was very unique. And I was like, I wonder if they're wiping out like just stupid fake accounts, or I was also curious if because as I've posted more about Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu and Bible verses, if that's the reason. So I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, no clue. But that is.
But my postings really haven't changed in the last month. It's pretty consistent.
Not really.
It's pictures of my boots on flights, the podcast, and
loads of boot pictures.
Yeah. Anyways, all right, what do you got, bud?
Well, let's start with, I think, one of the questions that a lot of Navy SEALs get asked, right? I'm gonna kind of revisit some Navy SEAL questions because I find them just thoroughly entertaining to ask you. Not that I'm never as interested in the answer as I am in making you uncomfortable by asking Navy SEAL questions.
Cool.
Yep. So, Navy SEAL question number 1. What was the most difficult part of working with conventional military units as a SEAL?
The most difficult part,
yeah,
I would say probably just recognizing their rank structure, like the different, sergeant, first sergeant,
okay,
master sergeant, gunny sergeant, like, Marine Corps, Army, just trying to like figure out all those rankings, because you don't want to call somebody by the wrong.
Okay, so their ranking systems are like different.
Oh yeah, so it's way different than the Navy. So like an E6 in the Navy is a petty officer first class.
Mm-hmm.
An E6 in the Army and Marine Corps, I believe, sergeant. I don't know. See, like that's the thing. Like I forget these things.
Staff sergeant is an E6 sergeant in the Army.
Yeah. So
and also a staff sergeant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so
gunnery sergeant is E7.
Yeah, and I know gunny in the Marine Corps is E7, but it was just understanding. Because that's real big in the conventional forces, like calling them by their proper rank with their name.
Sergeant first class is the E7.
Yeah. Okay.
That's bizarre.
And then look at E8 and look at E9.
Yeah.
And there's also there's different E9s.
Yep. And then an E7, and you would be chief petty officer.
Yep. Oh yeah. So I knew obviously all the Navy rankings and most of the Marine Corps ranking, but I hadn't worked with a lot of soldiers before. So understanding their proper rank and title to show them respect was super critical.
Air Force, it says you just get a gold star.
Yep. So
master sergeant is the E7 in the Air Force.
Yeah. And in Ar Ramadi, we didn't work with the Air Force. We didn't work with them at all.
The Marines were the ones who covered you guys from the air, right?
Yeah, that's why Dave Burke was with us in Ar Ramadi.
Good deal, Dave.
So for me, it was just showing these guys proper respect and understanding their rank, their titles and their rank properly. And so I remember like week 1 of being in Ar Ramadi, getting some big like piece of like construction paper.
Mm-hmm.
And actually drawing out the ranking system.
Really?
Yep, for both branches. Like E4, this is what it's called. This is what it's called. And this is what it looks like.
Yes,
like
are the insignias different?
Yeah.
Well, it's a good job. Good job, the government.
Yeah. So
way to keep it simple.
Well, the Navy's the most far off from all of them. That's why they're always just like give us a hard time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
it does. I mean.
Everything else was fine. Like everything else is manageable because you're talking everything. Literally everything else you're talking. It's about building relationships and subordinating your ego.
Right.
So if you go in there humble, saying, "Hey, I want to help you. I want to support you. You guys are awesome. This is what you're capable of. You guys are awesome. Hey, here's what we're capable of. Can we help you guys?" If you went into every conversation with that mindset of, "Hey, I think you guys are great at what you do. I respect you. I want to help you. Hey, here's our capabilities. Does it fit into what you're doing?" You're gonna be able to intermingle with any other group. Think about why all the different police agencies have issues with the different agencies and branches, because they come in there with egos, not wanting to build relationships. And if we just switch that around, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm here to support you. You're here to support me. One team, one fight. Let's have a one team, one fight mentality with solving these crimes. Let's support each other. And, I think that would be a drastic improvement to how our different agencies work with each other.
Yeah, it's so weird as a as the NCC because our ranking system is the same. We don't have one.
Yeah.
Right?
Weird.
Like there's not one. If a big guy walks into the room, most of us are going to be like, "Oh, well, he's in charge." Like that's it. There's not a lot of like insignias and stuff like that. It's just so bizarre to me that that it's not standardized
In the military?
Yeah, especially since like when you think of no disrespect to the Marines, but the Marines were originally a branch of the Navy.
They still are.
Okay,
They're
right?
a department of the Navy.
They're a department of the Navy,
Yep.
right? So it would make sense that they would, because they're amphibious, would be to go with the naval ranking system, or, you know, since they do a lot of ground fighting, go with the Army ranking system. Mm-hmm. But instead, they'd have their own thing.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me that
Or
you
the
have
Air
an
Force
admiral versus a general.
Or the Air Force would be the same as the Army because it was the Army Air Corps before the Air Force was formed.
Yeah. That's so weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially like reading this stuff about like the advent of the Army Air Corps and all that lately as I'm going through the World War II stuff.
Now, the Coast Guard is very similar to the Navy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. But they're a Department of Transportation.
Oh my gosh.
They're not DOD.
You know what the thing is?
They're Department of Transportation.
You know what the thing is I worry about is that you don't understand bureaucracy in the workplace.
Yeah, I like when people say that. My favorite is when people are like, "No, you don't understand the bureaucracy.
You don't
of this
understand the
organization."
politics of what we do at this organization."
You mean like when I got turned down for a combat promotion that Jocko and Seth put me in for, but they said I was too young and junior in rank?
Huh?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have him on the podcast at some point. But I had a friend who is definitely Ranger. And I believe Delta Force back when people were still asking whether or not Delta was a thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he was in Somalia.
How awkward would it be if he really wasn't any of those?
Well, then he would have to remove a pretty gnarly tattoo. Yeah.
There are guys. I'm not saying this.
Yeah, for sure.
Clearly,
I've seen guys with the Ranger tab tattoos that like.
There was a kid that showed up to boot camp with a trident tattooed on his back because he had a SEAL contract. How well do you think it worked out for him with the SEAL instructors there for SEAL prep?
I'm sure they were stoked.
He quit.
No doubt.
There might have been a near drowning incident.
Well, it's
because not because anything happened to him.
Say, he should have.
No. I'm not saying anything.
Worn his swim flippers.
No, nothing. No, like this was not a malicious thing.
Right. Yeah.
But that's how bad the guy was at swimming. So could you imagine,
like that,
not being a strong swimmer
and going into
somehow getting a SEAL contract? His recruiter definitely lied that he passed the test.
Oh, for sure.
And then showing up with a big trident on your back. Weird.
Maybe he's got a future being in The Little Mermaid the musical as King Triton, and then that'll justify his whole life's work.
Dude, I mean, just
like,
what's the thought process?
The swimming portion of the SEAL training is the primary reason I have zero interest.
Yeah.
Right. Not to mention the fact that I'm 38 and past enlistment age.
Yeah. There's waivers for everything.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I could do it, but
I would have done it.
Swimming,
but, I had to.
I got this shoulder injury. I got a KT tape.
I would have done it. I would have gone, but I don't like taking direction from people.
Yeah,
so I decided the military
for sure.
That's my favorite when people.
That
I was going to serve, but I chose not to because I don't like taking direction from people.
Yeah, I'm not big on structure and discipline in my life.
Yet they have their job that's like, hey, be here at 8:00.
Yep. So dumb. But yeah, watching all the SEAL stuff, people were always like, hey, you know what? You're athletic. If you thought about serving, you could probably, like, every recruiter or guy that I knew that enlisted was like, I'm going Ranger school. Like, we could blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah. Like, you want to do, I got a buddy that was like sold on, we're going to be Navy SEALs. And I was like, no. He's like, how come? I was like, I don't want to swim.
You're just straight up like,
I don't like swimming. I don't like being in pools. There's nothing appealing to me about the Navy. Like, yeah, you want to throw me in a desert and And, you know, for Ranger stuff, like that's got some appeal to me, right? The Green Beret thing. Yeah, I've got some buddies who went that route. Like
strong
freaking
appeal.
absolutely.
Strong appeal.
Right? You want to, hey, we're going to swim to this buoy and back. It's like, I'll just die. Just
We're going to do nighttime swims also.
Yeah.
And we're going to do an evolution called drown proofing.
Yeah. Let's just stamp me, not 4F, just not interested. Just put that on there.
Oh, that's awesome. Sorry, I totally hijacked what you were about to say about your guest.
I would have loved to have been in a, like if I was going to go Navy, I would totally go submarine. I would, I think.
Zero desire to be.
Bro, I think that would be, first off, I meet the height requirements.
Well, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Utmost respect and love for our submariners.
Yeah.
Because I have zero interest in doing that. That was one of, like, so people always ask, like, did you have some thing that you think about to help you make it through buds? And for the most part, it's like, no, I made the decision that I'm going to make it through that training. So I was just like committed. I was like, no, I'm going to make it through this training. I'm not going to quit. And I remember my buddy Ray Mendoza, you know, he had already been through buds. He was like a week away from graduating and he got dropped. And it was crazy, stupid reasons. But he goes out of the fleet, comes back, and I remember us talking about it in buds and him saying, you know, I've been through buds except for the last week. He goes, and none of these instructors are going to get me to quit. They didn't the first time, and they're not going to do it this time. He goes, they breathe the same oxygen you and I breathe, bud. They're no better than us. They've just gone through it at an earlier time. And I just remember the way he said that with conviction and confidence. And I fed off that. That's why, you know, your attitude is contagious. That's a very real thing.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have to be aware of. And I remember feeding off my buddy Ray Mendoza's attitude in the most positive, epic way ever. And it was just this reminder of like, oh yeah, like I'm in control. Now, I will say some of the things I would think about is if I was to make that decision and quit, there's a high probability because of my rate being a hull technician. Well, it was a 100% probability that I would be at the bottom of a ship the whole time.
Yeah.
Because you're down in the engineering department. I mean, that's where you're living. You're working all the time. It's, from what I've heard, horrible. And there's a high probability you end up on a sub.
Yeah.
With that rating. And I was like, oh, no. Absolutely.
You have to pass.
No. I was just...
You and Ben had the same motivation. Don't put me in the category that I...
Oh, yeah, his dad.
He tech.
IT guy.
Yeah, he hated it so much. Yeah. But yeah, so getting back to the story about my buddy, he gets stabbed when he's in Somalia. He's in the Black Hawk Down group. Like he's a sniper doing cover fire while they're trying to extract the team. He gets stabbed, and so they take him back to the stadium that they're staging at, and basically they sew him up. But they sew him up, and when they sew up his abs, I think it's the top two, and then like the middle on the left side, they didn't stretch his muscles properly, so they're sewn at an angle, and so they healed funky. So when he was getting ready for his promotion, that he was kind of at that part of his contract where like go to promotion, whatever, he goes to do the sit-ups and he can't pass the sit-up test. So he's got to do like 1,000 sit-ups or whatever, and he makes it to like 800, and he's physically like in so much pain, and his body is cramping up because his abs aren't in the places that they're supposed to be, that he can't do it. And so they're like, nope, you're out. So he he starts doing his retirement paperwork, and he gets stopped, and they're like, why, how come you couldn't pass the PT? And he shows them. So they push him through, and like, we're going to promote you. He's like, no, I'm not going, man.
He should have taken the promotion.
He was like, at that point, he had his civilian job all worked out. He was on his way out the door, and he tried to explain to the people who were administering the test and everything else, like what he went through, where it all was, and they were like, if you can't pass the test, you can't pass the test.
Who was administering the test?
I have no idea. And this would have been like 90s.
Usually it's like guys from within your own community.
Yeah. So, don't know.
That's crazy.
Yep. But it was a rough deal for him. And when they finally, like, his leadership stepped up at the end, but he had all his paperwork already filled out. He would have had to go jump through a couple of hoops, and they're like, we'll take care of it. And he's like, no, I'm done.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That sucks.
Yeah, it does.
That's why the military loses good people.
Yep. And
You have
his
good leaders
abs-
and bad leaders in every organization.
So we trained together for a long time, and he was showing me one day like how his abs work. It is bizarro. Yep. Now he's a deputy in Oklahoma. Super good dude.
That's crazy.
But yeah,
You know,
and great shot.
That's awesome. Yeah. I recently, Amanda and I were hanging out with our friends, having dinner the other night, just having our families hang out, catch up. And one of their friends, like a close, like it's like very close to the family, is engaged to get married to this guy. And they both were like, yeah, they call him Jason Bourne as a joke because what he does is so classified he can't talk about it.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
one of those, right?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
awesome.
was just like, so I started asking more questions, and they're giving me like, they're like, this is all we know. And my buddy was just like, Dane was just like laughing. He's like, I just call him Jason Bourne. He's like, it's complete BS. And his wife was like, yeah, it's complete BS. Like, we knew it was BS. It's so obvious to them.
Right.
And they're trying to explain it to this girl that's engaged. She's like, well, everybody has their past, and I prefer not to know. It's okay. It's like, no. It's not about his past. He's literally living a lie.
Yeah, he's lying to you right now.
You want to know? This is super cringy.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I don't know if this is true or not, but
Sure.
former Marine,
Cool.
right? Which is awesome.
Yep.
Like, dude, obviously you know how much I love the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
We love the Marine Corps. And then
I'm a little iffy on Rob right now because this run,
well,
but everybody else.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then allegedly does like government contracting work,
Okay.
like Tony type of work.
Interesting.
However,
Oh boy.
I reached out to Tony and a few other guys that I have buddies that worked there and or worked there. Okay.
Tony, Ben, is it some other guys?
Oh yeah. And a handful of
Yeah.
other guys. And so I reach out and I was like, hey, like, I don't know. And so I said, long shot. Anyway, to have the ability to check this guy actually works, allegedly, anyway, blah, 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 has a government job that he can't talk about to anyone, including his fiance, alludes to being with the agency and says he can't discuss what he does. Here's the awkward part. When Trump got shot, he told his fiance, I'm going to have to be on my phone all day in case they call me to go help.
Wow. So he's either a content creator or like he works for
How
Newsmax.
awkward is this, bro?
Oh boy, that's
And
not good.
like the fiance is just like, doesn't want to accept that it's just a legitimate lie.
She needs to go listen to our episode on Stolen Valor that we did, which is one of my favorites.
So here's what Tony says. This is what's, and a few of my other buddies said the exact same thing.
Right.
If he was in the agency and unable to say, he would have a full cover and wouldn't say that he can't talk about it. Like that is kind of,
That makes sense.
you kind of are like, if you're saying I can't talk about it,
Yeah.
you're violating the whole you can't talk about it thing, because you're alluding to the
Right.
fact that, hey, there's something going on that you don't know about and I can't tell you about it. The point of that whole thing is so that nobody knows. Like,
Yeah.
that's the point of that. Is like,
But
nobody knows what
exactly.
you do. He goes, he's full of
Yeah.
he goes, ask him for his agency ID number. And then he gives me information on what it should be like. He goes, it's like asking a frogman for his BUDS class number. Everybody knows it, and he better have one.
Yeah. There you go. Like when everybody finds out one day that my name is actually Eugene, then y'all know that like I was deep cover as all this. But it's only whenever you have put up a front as good as mine that you can be believable. Like the whole thing though with the Stolen Valor stuff and all this, like it, for one, it doesn't make sense. For two, you're just preying on other people's goodwill and
goodwill,
trust.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell?
I have not.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
On the list?
phenomenal. Yep. Gladwell's book Talking to Strangers is great because one of the things it talks about is how when we default to trust, that we absolutely lose our ability to see whether or not somebody's telling the truth. And that if we default to sort of, I guess, mistrust would be the better way to put it, then we also don't have an ability to tell the truth. Like we can tell, if we default to mistrust, we can tell better when somebody's lying, but we can't tell better when somebody's telling the truth. And if we default to truth, then we're still about a 50-50 shot. It totally blows my mind. But yeah, his book, Talking to Strangers, is great. And the audio book is really fascinating because you get to hear the people that he interviewed. So I've read it and I've listened to it. The people that he interviewed are actually the ones that are talking on the audiobook. He uses the excerpts from the interviews. So it's almost like listening to like an 8-hour podcast about one like really intense topic. It's so good.
Interesting. Let's check it out.
Yep.
Cool, man.
Talking to Strangers.
All right, here's the deal. Just be proud of your service. If you're in the military and or were in the military, just be proud of what you did. Be honest with what you did. And that's just a good general principle for all of us in life.
100%.
Be proud of what you do. And let's just say you're not happy with where you're at or what you're doing. You can change it. You can change your circumstance. And at the end of the day, like if you're living a good, honorable life, and if you feel like you are walking in God's will for you at this point in your life, and you're living your life to honor God and take care of your family and your friends, and you're an honest person, you're a hard worker, none of the other things really matter. Like I've never met somebody that I knew was just a good human, was trustworthy, that treated me with respect, that treated my family with respect, that treated their family with respect. They were just a good human. Not once have I ever said, hey, what do you do for a living? And then that changed the way I looked at them in a positive or negative manner. Not once. So don't get wrapped up in those things. Don't lie about those things. And don't be gullible. Don't be gullible and get sucked into people's lies and deception, because the truth will be exposed.
Everything in the darkness will be brought into the light.
My man. Mm-hmm. With that has been the JP Dinnell podcast, YouTube exclusive with myself, JP, and Lucas.